It's close enough. Nothing with the outfit was really working, but that might be fitting in this case. Hello everybody, it's me, Ivy, and we are here for our final week of reviewing / predicting Doctor Who Season 1 / 14 / 40. If you haven't been here all the previous weeks, basically what I've been doing is a couple weeks back, I predicted how the episode was going to turn out using multiple different tools. And then I'm going to talk about my thoughts on the episode and compare it to my prediction and see if it lived up to it. Don't know why I did this. The last prediction is for Empire of Death, our finale for Season 1. And I have good news, people. I have good news because I asked the random slips of paper if this episode was going to be good. And it said yes, and then I asked my cat Samson, and he also said yes. As for the tarot part of this whole process, I pulled the Six of Wands, and some things associated with this card are success, victory, recognition, and acclaim. So we finally got our, super cohesive prediction. However, I have to trust in my tools. I have to honor the process that I have created for myself on a random Tuesday night. So, I will say that the prediction I came to based on the knowledge from my tools and experts is that this finale is going to be really good. Based on the tools, there's a chance that it will strongly wrap up the season and a lot of the things that were introduced. It will feel very fulfilling. But I think most of all, when I think of success and victory from the tarot card, I think that this episode will hopefully, based on my prediction, make people feel really happy, really satisfied, and really secure about this whole Disney Plus era. Russell T Davies coming back. I think that it will kind of tell us whether or not we're in the clear for a lot of people. Prediction. I guess that the episode's going to be really good, it's going to do its job, it's going to be great, and it's going to make us feel amazing about the future. And future Ivy knows all about that. So thank you for watching my predictions, and I'll see you next year. I'm gonna cut straight to the chase. The prediction did not live up to the episode at all. The prediction in my mind was completely incorrect. I don't like being negative. I have a hard time being negative. I was not a fan of this episode at all. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna start by talking about what I did like, get that out of the way, because I do always try and find something I liked, and I do succeed. And there was a couple things I did like, so we'll talk about that first, and then we'll get into the rest of the discussion. Ruby meeting her mom, number one. That's like the one thing from this episode that really stuck with me and I really loved. I did cry. Even on rewatch, I did cry. It's a really beautiful scene. It's just so beautiful and so emotional, and it really does keep you on your toes because there's that uncertainty of not knowing if Ruby is just going to kind of let her biological mother live her life and sort of
Ruby?
Just be content with the knowledge of who she is instead of properly meeting her, or if she's gonna go up and introduce herself. And then of course that relief and those tears and that happiness when they reunite. Like I really did love that scene. And I loved how she became incorporated in the Sunday family, and they were showing children's photos, things like that. I thought that was really beautiful. And yeah. The memory TARDIS, I think, is a really cool concept. I personally haven't seen Tales of the TARDIS yet, but just the idea of the memory TARDIS, and how they ended up incorporating how and why it exists into the episode, I thought was really smooth. I like the design of it. I like how homey it is. I like, all the little Easter eggs about the place. I just think the memory TARDIS is very cool. Comes to Sutekh, I really do. I enjoy Sutekh's design. Gabriel Wolf does an incredible job with his voice. It's so smooth and evil. Like, it's one of those voices that is so fitting for a godlike, tense character like Sutekh. And again, I do love the design. I think, there's times where it seems a bit like I couldn't quite get, I think it's because the voice feels more telepathic rather than actually coming from the Sutek model itself. Maybe that's what puts me off a little bit, but I do like the design overall, and I think the VFX team did an amazing job in this episode, especially with the sequence where they're in the time vortex and Sutek is being dragged by the TARDIS. Just amazing work there. I never felt like it was too cheap or too unrealistic. I thought it looked very nice, and I thought it fit well with Sutek's sort of personality and powers and character. Shidigatwa, amazing performance, especially in the scene where everything's dead and he's screaming in that pain and that anguish, and in the final monologue, he just did an amazing job, and I love Shudi. Millie, I thought, did a pretty good job this episode, but Shudi really took a highlight with me. I think there were a lot of really great Doctor moments in this episode, and he just absolutely bodied them, so. On to the things I didn't like. And again, I apologize, this is going to be the majority of the review. First and foremost, I guess the category that my dislikes fall under is the lack of tension and climax in this episode. Sutek's powers for me work way too easily, and I think that killing everyone off right off the bat really makes the episode take a lot of hits in different ways. Firstly, it really does make Sutek's eventual defeat just seem completely unbelievable. Like, we're seeing immense power from him and his Angels of Death. They're literally killing everyone. They're teleporting, like, at one point, like, just immense power. And you expect me to believe they just put him on a leash and dragged him around a little bit? Secondly, I do feel that killing everyone off right off the bat makes it really obvious that there's going to be an eventual reset button at the end of the episode. Now, reset buttons themselves are fine. Like, I think it's kind of a nice, smooth, easy resolution to a plot while still giving you an opportunity to show large-scale death and destruction. But you should still be putting the work in to try and convince the audience that maybe that's not going to be an option, or that at the very least some of these consequences and things that are happening are going to stick. Otherwise, I just feel like I really can't get invested in the plot or feel or believe that the characters are truly struggling or having to solve and fix something. Referring to the lack of a proper climax specifically, typically in a natural story progression you see rising action before a climax. But for this story, it feels like all of the rising action and build-up happen either in The Legend of Ruby Sunday or in the first 10 minutes or so of this episode with everyone dying off, and then things just like massively slow down in the middle. And sure, you have Ruby and the Doctor and Mel and the memory TARDIS, and they're trying to figure out like Ruby's mom, but is that really action? It doesn't feel like it. It really doesn't. Things just feel very slow, and it doesn't feel like we're really presented with all that much tension or stakes. So by the time we get to the climax, at least for me, it really felt like oh, I guess we're done now. We're defeating him now. Like, it just doesn't feel like any big hurdle was crossed. I think this episode really would have benefited from drawing out Sutek's destruction more, like dedicating some of the time that was given to slower bits to Unit or maybe Ruby's family and showing them trying to ward this off, or maybe just experiencing it while Ruby and the Doctor and Mel are trying to handle the bigger picture. Like, I just think that would have provided a lot more tension and given a bit more of an incentive to the characters to feel rushed and under duress, and we really have to figure out how to fix this, rather than just like sitting there, everyone's already dead, the deed's already done, and you're kind of just waiting, watching the Doctor find a spoon and do an ancestry kit until we finally get to Sutek's very easy defeat. And he is defeated so easily, it's ridiculous. As much as I love the time vortex sequence, I was just sitting there like, wow, this guy just killed off the entire universe and has immense power and reach throughout all time and space, but they just put a leash on him and he can't somehow circumvent that in any way. Not to mention, I really don't understand how him being dragged through the time vortex would somehow reverse the things that he did or reverse death, and not in the typical sci-fi way of like, oh, well, that's like a futuristic scientific concept, we don't have to explain that. Like, in a genuine lazy way, I don't feel like there was any explanation to how that would work. I could sit here and try to figure out that logic or theorize, but frankly, I don't feel invested or like I care enough about Sutek or his powers or this finale to do that, and I don't think the show does either. The next category of complaints has to do with Ruby's story specifically, and how that sort of got wrapped up. Firstly, I don't I don't think Sutek's bit or his motivations or that bit of the finale lined up with this, like, at all in a way that made sense. Like, Sutek's been stuck on the TARDIS for, like, millennia. I'm sure he hasn't seen or understood a bajillion things, but, like, I don't buy that a super powerful god of death would somehow be intrigued by a young teen mom abandoning her daughter. Like, the math is not mathing here. I don't think Ruby and her mom turning out to be ordinary works well either. I believe Russell T Davies said that this was inspired by Rey from Star Wars. For clarification, I have seen all of the Star Wars movies. I'm not like super invested in it though, so I'm sorry if anything I say comes off as incorrect, but my perception at least is that that works because all of the protagonists in Star Wars are like super powerful, they have extraordinary, like they have the Force and stuff, and a lot of that and their importance in the story is because they're like this chosen one, or they have an important bloodline or something to that effect. So it is different and effective and powerful to show that someone ordinary can have those same powers and importance and impact on the story and the world at large. But Doctor Who kind of already has a long-running dedication to showing the power and the beauty in the ordinary. So I just feel like it doesn't quite fit here. I don't know. Like I said, I really don't buy that Sutek would be interested in this. And I think saying, oh, it's all important because we think it is kind of a cop-out, because there's a lot of things in the universe and in our personal lives that we think is really important, but that doesn't mean that time and space would bend around it. I can certainly see how it all links back, looking back, because the snow and the music sort of start when people start talking about Ruby's story and her mystery, so it's like triggering that sort of event, but the actual snow and music itself aren't explained. I don't know, it really reads to me like they were coming up with a lot of random bullshit this series, and they thought that they could get away with just saying, oh, there's no reason for it other than you thought there was going to be. Like, what are you doing there? Like, it just doesn't compute to me at all. Like, it feels like a waste of time, it feels like a waste of energy, it feels like a waste of effective storytelling. It astounds me, like, looking back. There's a lot in this finale too where I feel like they're trying way too hard to be clever and subvert expectations and be like, oh, you didn't think about this being an option. Like with Ruby's mom and the road sign. Of course we didn't think that her pointing at a road sign to name her daughter on some random CCTV. Point is, there was a lot here that really was not solved in a satisfying way or a way that made sense. And it really did take me out of the story and mystery completely. Like, I feel like why should I care about it? Why? When I watched Legend of Ruby Sunday, one of my main predictions was that this episode was going to make or break it, and I do feel like it's largely broken, because so much of it just really doesn't go anywhere, or doesn't end up being meaningful or impactful, and it's just a shame, because that episode got me really excited and invested in all of this. Like, all of the mystery of the season, all of the build-up from Legend of Ruby Sunday, it really does feel like it really wanted to lead us somewhere, and it really wanted to get us excited, and that was its only purpose. That was its only purpose, was to get us excited and intrigued. It didn't actually have a meaningful place in the story or with these characters. The leaving scene where Ruby leaves the doctor, I have conflicting feelings on. I did cry a little bit, I did get emotional, it does tug at your heartstrings. I do think it makes sense for the characters in that moment. Ruby's just found more of her family, and she needs time to get to know them and introduce herself and live her life with them. But it's another one of those things in the episode that I don't buy. I'm not convinced by it. It feels very undeserved and awkward because we've barely seen them spend time together. They haven't really grown together or as characters themselves, and I certainly don't buy that they've changed each other in any meaningful way. They start and end at the same place pretty much, and it all just feels very cookie cutter, and I just don't feel as invested in them nearly as much as I thought or hoped I would before this season started. Just so many times where I don't buy them as best friends or as a doctor and companion pairing, and that's such a shame to me because, again, they have so much potential. They work so well together, and we should have seen so much of them together. We should have seen more conflict, we should have seen more growth, we should have seen more interaction between them and getting to know each other, working around each other, working off of each other, and we just didn't. It feels like there's just times, especially in this leaving scene, where the show is just kind of trying to force this idea on them that we did get that stuff when we didn't. They shine together. They should have had more time to shine together, and they didn't. And it's unfortunate, and it makes this ending of the season and this leaving scene unfortunate as well. If you couldn't tell, this finale was extremely disappointing to me. If I had to rank the episodes this season, which I may one day, it would just absolutely tank to the bottom of the list, and I hate saying that, and I'm very sorry. I hate being so negative, and I feel exhausted right now. I'm sure you're exhausted listening to me being negative, but it's just how things are with this finale for me. The consensus was same across the board, but I still want to know what you thought, especially if you thought different from me. I would love to be convinced into liking more of this story and being able to change my mind and think about it more positively. So if you think you can do that, leave a comment below, or like the video, or subscribe to my channel. We are at the end of this review season, which feels odd. But it means I can work on other things. I do have some fun things in the work I think are very interesting and creative and a bit unique, and I hope that you'll join me and stick around to see what those are. My phone literally cut off my ending message. I'm so sorry. I hope you're staying safe, happy and healthy. I hope you're having a great day, night, whatever time it is for you, and I hope to see you again soon, and I love you loads. Bye.